Ezra's connecting the audio. Oh, Daniel,
Hi.
welcome. Hi, Ezra. Welcome back.
Yes.
This time you don't have to fight to stay awake.
Yes. It is because it is the afternoon here.
Yes, yes. Just hope that your lunch was not too heavy that you feel like taking a nap. All right. Daniel, hi. Can you hear us? I think we can't hear you. So, Daniel, could you try? Could you check your audio? Desmond, in the meanwhile, could you tell us what you do? Just run us through your background.
Hello everyone.
Can you tell us about yourself?
I'm from Malaysia.
Okay.
Now currently I'm still a student.
Okay, you're studying. What do you? Okay, yes, Daniel. We no, we can't hear you now. We can see your chat. Sorry, Desmond. Keep going. What do you study?
I'm still in middle school.
Okay, all right. How old are you again?
I'm 17.
You're 17. Okay, all right. Excellent. This is actually the best time to get into financial education.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. Daniel, no, we can't hear you yet. Ask to unmute. Okay.
What about now?
Yes, excellent. Wonderful.
Nice.
Very happy to hear your voice. Could you just introduce yourself so we can all know what we are, what is the mix that we have here?
Okay. So I'm Daniel, and I'm from Portugal.
Right.
I'm 38. Okay. And I'm a software engineer.
All right. Steve here is also into software. I mean, he is an IT professional.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, how long have you been playing the game? I just want to know for the background sake.
I've been playing the game for about 1 year, but I stopped for a while. I'm trying to follow your advice by playing on the big deals, but I think I didn't get it yet.
All right.
So I think that sometimes I'm getting bankrupt, which
Okay.
is what I think.
Okay.
Or I thought about that strategy, but then I found some ways that I can use the strategy. But when you have little money, it's hard to follow it because it gets boring. You have to wait until you get the assets sold. So
Okay. We'll look into
not
that.
sure about the strategy.
Yeah, we'll look into that during the game. We will see how each deal is connected to the real market. We'll see how each deal is you can use the deal in the game to advance your move from the rat race to the fast track. We'll see how this can be compared with the real life markets as well. We'll work out all of that. But it's important
Okay,
that
nice.
it's nice that you have been playing the game for a while. So, but you also have to keep reading the books. I mean, you have to continue reading books. You have to continue reading not just Kiyosaki, but also other books, because reading is quite important when it comes to applying some of these principles and putting them back into the game. Steve, could we hear from you about your background in the game?
Yeah, well, yeah, some time ago, in a bid to escape the rat race, I started looking for opportunities. And so what I settled on, as I mentioned, was the e-commerce business.
Mhm.
It has been, yeah,
No, I'm
it's
talking
been,
about your background in the game.
oh, playing the game online or in terms of financial education.
Right? How long have you been playing the game, and what strategies do you use?
Okay. Yeah, playing the game not too long. About a month or so, perhaps.
All right, okay, that's good enough, because when I started playing the game, in the after a month, I moved to a different strategy. I started working on my alternate strategy. So this is about the right time to. I mean, I would say this is. I mean, if you've been playing for a month, it's good.
Okay. So yeah, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So at the time that I finished that, I tried to get the actual board game, like
Mm-hmm.
getting it imported into South Africa. So I'm originally from Scotland,
Yes,
but I've been in South Africa for 17 years now.
right. Okay.
So getting it imported or getting anything imported into South Africa is, yeah, it can be a challenge. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, but then I learned about playing the game online, and yeah, it started then.
Right, right. So, okay, the board game has a lot, many more options than the online game.
Okay.
It's actually a much more interesting thing, because you can do a lot of things. You can join hands with the other players, and you can do cooperative deals. You don't you can create additional rules. You can, like the real market, like the real world, because in the real world you can collaborate with everybody, right?
Yes, exactly.
You could talk to people, you could get them to agree, and you could partner with different people. So the board game is a little different in that aspect, that you can actually combine with other people. You can lend them money. If you've got money, you can lend them money, and you can become a financier to their. If they have, they need money, you could lend them. You If you need, you can sponsor other people's children. So there's a lot of things you could do, especially if you have money.
Okay.
Right. So that's the board game. The board game is totally, but of course you need other people who would work with you. The board game is actually like being in an office, just that it's a little more fun than being in an office, right? So, but it's a little bit of work. Anyway, we will see about that when we start playing a game. I think Ezra lost his connection and went out. Desmond, how long have you been playing the game, and what strategies?
I think if this game count, I think this is the third game I play.
All right, so very fresh to the game, I'd say.
Sorry?
You're very fresh to the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And which books have you read?
Cash flow.
Yes, you read Cash Flow Quadrant, and I think you read a couple of other books also, right? You read Think
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Grow Rich.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Now, okay, Desmond, that's a very good thing. I'm very, very impressed with what you've done. You've read the books. You have, that's really good, because you collect a lot of information. You collect a lot of theory in the books, which you can actually put into practice when it comes to the game, and you can see it work. And the best part about the game, or the best part about putting theory into practice, is that you don't put just one theory into practice by itself. It's not independent. You have to combine it with other theory, which means you have to remember almost everything that you have read about, everything that you know, before you can actually put together a proper strategy. Anyway, that's good for an introduction. I think we should go into the game right now. And how we will do this is we will enter into a game. And I will start a game, and let's say I'll call it cash flow, and the password is cash all small. Okay, let me share my screen as well. That would work for this. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Right. Share screen. There you go. Sure. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'm creating a game. There's 4 of us here. I think, let me check with Ezra if he would come back. Hold on a second. Ezra. Are you coming back to this meeting or the next? He's totally okay. He's online. Let me see if I can bring him up. Okay. Can't speak from here. Could you message? Okay, so he is restarting his laptop,
Okay.
and so I'll send him. Okay, okay. Let's wait for him. We'll look at a few other things in the meanwhile. Okay, I'll run. Okay, Ben entered. Wow. Okay, Ben is just in time. Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, we are trying to start the game. All right. Hi, Ben. Can't hear you yet. Unmute, please. Nice to see you. Okay, can't hear you still. No, can't hear you. Ask to unmute. Okay. Yes.
No?
Yes. Good, good. Excellent. I just need to
Cool.
make sure that we can
What's
communicate.
Daniel? Thank you, man. Desmond?
Desmond, Steve, Daniel. This is a good idea.
Nice. All new guys.
All you guys, yes. Ezra joined, but his laptop restarted. We're waiting for him. Okay. Shivam, wow. Okay.
Shivam is coming too.
Shivam is coming to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 already. Now Ezra is gonna have to stay out. Wow. Okay.
Password. Let's see here. I'm getting in.
Okay. Hi, Shivam. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Shivam.
Hi.
Okay. Nice to have you
Hi.
back.
Yeah.
Good, good,
Same
good.
here.
Okay.
Sorry, last meeting I was not aware. I'm not able to keep it up with the latest chat. That's why I was not able to attend.
Hey, no problem. No problem. Nice to have you back.
Make sure you don't do that ever again.
All right. Okay. So there's 7 of us here, and I have to. We can only play 6 people in the game. So I'm going to stay in the game and have to ask one of you to not join. Who's
It's
gonna-
okay.
Okay, no worries. I joined late, so I will be the last player. So let you guys 6 play.
Okay.
No
Just
worries.
come.
Let's. Okay. No. I'm going to ask Ben to stay away because Ben is connected on the phone.
Oh,
Okay, because the screen is a little difficult. I've got nothing against you, man. Okay, because no, the thing is, the screen is a little difficult to handle with the phone.
mobile.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask Ben to stay out, and okay, you can see the. I'm going to create the game. Ready, everyone? There goes.
Sure.
Join to cash flow. Right, that's Steve, Daniel. Okay, who's that? Who's the challenger? Ezra. Okay, all right. Okay, nice. All right, we need 2 more guys. Who are the? Desmond hasn't joined yet. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Shivam yet to join.
I'm trying to join.
Okay, all right. Desmond is in.
What's the password? Cash, right?
Cash, all small.
I am typing is just throwing me back to the screen.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, Ezra.
Yes.
All right, there you go.
Join.
How did you create that background over there?
Uh,
Do you have a green wall or something behind you?
no, I choose the virtual background in the Zoom.
Oh, it's a Zoom
Actually,
thing.
yes.
Yeah,
I think it's just available for desktop or laptop users.
Okay, I got it. Because I've seen it before, but I never got to that.
I'm using
You
a
just need to
virtual
download the
background, so
hierarchy.
it looks nice.
For you too.
Yes, yes.
That's why you have a lovely house.
Yes, I've got a green screen because my kids, when they use use it for online classes, we don't get to use the rest of the room. So I've put so they are not allowed to use virtual backgrounds while in class, but I don't have that kind of problem.
Last time I was thinking, man, this dude is balling. What the?
I should probably cut out this portion from the video when I edit it and post it on the YouTube.
Yep.
All right, there goes. Okay, let me mute the ding dings on this. Okay, all right. Okay, you can see my profile. Lawyer, starting salary is 7,500. I wish this was not the profile. I wish it was something with a smaller income so we could understand that it is not because of the salary or the income that we could work on this game. Okay, but still, since we are in the game, let's go. And I do my role. Okay, all right, nothing good. Now, Steve, I want you to share your screen. I'm going to stop screen sharing and you can start sharing your screen.
Okay.
So we will know what is going on in your screen.
Sure. Okay.
All right, excellent. Now pick your dream, anything, it doesn't make a difference. All right,
Yeah.
roll, go ahead. Okay, pick All right, no. Okay, you don't pick the small deals because we are not here to play the small deals.
Okay.
Okay, we play the big deals now. So we understand what happens in the market in the bigger side, because that's what financial education is all about. If we can figure out how the big ones work, then we become financially free faster.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So the next time, so you can stop screen sharing, click OK, end your turn, and Daniel can start screen sharing. Excellent. Daniel, pick your dream. Roll. Could you roll? Yes. Okay, all right. Expenses or doodads, I'm not going to explain them because expenses and doodads are, we are quite familiar with it. Okay, can you stop screen sharing, Daniel? All right, excellent. Ezra?
Yes.
Right. Great. All right, not much there. And that's Desmond. Desmond, can you screen share? Oh, okay. Already time to. All right, let's go. Excellent. Pick a big deal, please. And let's look at it. Okay. Now, if you look at this deal, now in the last few videos, we have covered a few things like market research and that, but we'll do it again. Okay, don't, please don't move forward. Okay, wait for a while. Wait for a while. Let's analyze this deal. All right, Daniel.
Yes,
Sorry,
you
Desmond.
can.
Desmond. Sorry.
Okay.
Desmond will analyze this deal and then we move forward. Okay. So it's an automated business for sale. Now, when you start analyzing these deals, you have to look at the wordings, the description very carefully, because the description says automated business for sale. Now, a little while ago, we had this conversation with Steve, and we were talking about the importance of putting in systems into place in any organization that we build, any business that we build. Now, if you look at an automated business for sale, it says automated. Automated simply means there's machines doing most of it, which means you don't need so much of supervision. It works without much human effort, which means, or it just, the system is already in place, or a part of a system is already in place. It could be an electronic system. It could be a procedure, a nice procedure, like how the delivery guys follow. So they have a set pattern for everything. So that's another system. So there are different kinds of systems there. Even I think in the IT business team, you have a lot of systems where you fix your workflows and you take your you tweak your procedures according to what works best. So best
Yes.
practices follow.
Right.
So this one already says successful coin business available due to death of owners, right? Death of owners. Heirs live out of state, all locations on long-term contracts. So it's a very profitable business, because on long-term contracts, you don't have to worry too much about your sales cost, which means the sales cost is very low. Your long-term contracts, which means you don't have to worry about your variable expenses. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the term variable expenses. So I can explain variable expenses in simple terms. In a business, you have two kinds of expenses. You have fixed expenses and you have variable expenses. Fixed expenses are expenses that you face without any business. Like if you have zero business, sure, Ben, that's exactly what I'm putting across. Fixed expenses is what you face without any business. Like if you're doing zero business, you still face these costs, like your licensing costs, your regulatory costs. If you have staff, you pay your salaries. If you have a premise, you pay your rent. Without any business, you still pay all of these, or you are liable to pay all of these. These are called fixed expenses. Now, variable expenses are where you incur these costs. You face these costs only, you face these expenses only if you do business. Like say, for example, your cost of goods. Like if you are trading something, if you buy something from somewhere to sell, you have an order and you buy your goods and you sell your goods. The buying cost is your variable expense because it depends on you doing business. If you don't do business, no buying of goods. Like your transportation. If you have to transport your goods from your supplier to your warehouse or your warehouse to your customer, again, if you don't have an order, if you're not doing business, you don't need to transport and you don't need to face these costs. You don't need to face these expenses. So that those are variable expenses. I can't see many faces, so I'm not sure if everybody is following. All good here?
Yes.
Variable
Yeah.
expenses, fixed expenses.
Sure.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Desmond, can you not click on these because we are looking at the screen right now? Okay. So look at the. I always like to simplify the cost and the down payment to connected to 100,000. So it makes the percentages easy. When you look at the cost of the business, it is 200,000. Okay, let's look at Desmond's profile first. He is a police officer with a salary of 3,000, which is not too high. It's a regular thing. Now, he doesn't have the money to do this on his own. He is not going to be able to make the deal by himself on his salary. Now, if he is not able to do it on his salary, he has to have somebody help him to purchase. And now in the game, it could be the bank. Now you can take a loan, but in the game, again, remember, the game is providing you finance, but it's not specifically saying you are getting the finance from a bank. It could be anybody. Now let's not be confused. It may not be the bank. It could be anybody. It could be investors. It could be crowdfunding. It could be your own money, but you have mortgaged something else and you have generated the cash. Now, all these are possible in real life. In real life, even your suppliers could give you credit if you are purchasing a now again, if you look at it, you are paying a down payment of 40,000 in this deal, and this 40,000, the remaining amount, the 160,000, is a credit that is offered by the seller or by the seller's bank. Now, if you look at it that way, there are multiple ways of financing a deal in real life. And in real life, it is also possible to get something with zero down payment. Of course, these are not very common. You don't have these every day, but it is also possible. Sometimes you can get things for zero down payment. All right. So now, is it wise for him to purchase. Okay, now before we go any further, I have to warn you, this meeting is going to end in another 1.5 minutes. There's no issue. Just join back with the same ID, same link, whatever it is. Just go back to the same link. Don't close the game. We will continue the game when we restart the meeting. All right. Everybody okay with that?
Okay.
Yes, no problem.
All right. Excellent. Good. Okay. Now the next thing that we are going to look at is it really possible for Desmond as a police officer with a salary of $3,000 only to buy this deal and make it work in his favor? What do you think?
No.
Okay, who said no?
I did. Steve.
Steve. Okay, all right. Steve says no. Who
He
says
would
yes?
need to borrow. He would need to borrow 39,000,
All right.
and the payments on that would be net negative. Yeah,
All right. Good.
he doesn't have enough capital to finance it.
Good. Okay. Since this meeting is almost ended, I will continue in the next meeting and I will explain that to you.
Okay.
All right. Who else has a different opinion? Who thinks it is possible for him to buy?
I would.
Daniel, please rename yourself again. Admit. Excellent. Two, three, four, five, six, seven. Okay.
So can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, Desmond. Excellent. Right. So who thinks, Desmond, what do you think?
I think it's possible to buy it, but I will get in debt by negative 80.
Right. You will go in for a negative payday.
Yeah.
Is it
80?
Negative 1,800?
$80.
Negative $80. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think cash flow will also increase. So that is also we can include.
Yes. Okay. This is one thing I like about the board game. Now, Steve was talking about the board game in the beginning. So this is one thing I like about the board game because it gives us a good idea of, is everybody here? I can see 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
Ben, you're here? Ben, Ezra? Okay, all right, okay, all right.
Yes.
Let me see if I can make this into a smaller thing so I can see everybody. I like to see everybody. All right, good, okay. So, yeah, that's one good thing about the board game because the board game doesn't automatically calculate everything. You have to calculate it manually and you have to use a pen and paper to write it down. Now, another recommendation, since many of us are new on this meeting, I would recommend you to have a pen, paper, and a calculator ready with you because we will go through a lot of calculations and we will go through a lot of, we will go through analysis based on the mathematical, how it works mathematically, right? Fine. So you would have a cash flow of 2,700 or 2,700. You have a loan repayment, every month of 3,900 or 3,900. which means there is a difference of um, what is that? 1,200,
Yeah.
right? Minus 1,200.
280.
Yes, right. Okay, so your payday goes to minus 80. Now, if you look at the minus 80, not so bad. But when you repeat that over a couple of paydays, it becomes a little concerning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where most of us get worried, because this is where our traditional models don't allow us to move forward. Let's, for the sake of for the sake of a suspense, for the sake of fun, let's now allow Desmond to buy this. Let him go into a minus 80 payday, and we'll see what happens in future. Desmond, could you go ahead and purchase the whole deal? Excellent. All right. So, okay, wait, don't move. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Now, if you look at his financial statement, that's exactly what I wanted to say. If you look at his financial statement, you would see what he has: cash, 680. He has a payday of minus 80, and he has a passive income, a massive passive income of 2,700. At 2,700, okay, now the question, why do we go to the big deals from the beginning? Because if we go to a small deal, what is the best passive income you can make in one deal? 300, 400?
Yeah, 400 maybe.
500 maybe. All right. So that means if you have to gain a passive income of 2,700, how many deals would you have to do? Let's assume you get 500 passive income for every deal. How many deals?
Six.
Before you get
Six.
six? It's six
Divorce,
deals,
yeah.
right? So 6 deals in now the intention of financial education is to accelerate your exit from the rat race. Correct?
Yes.
If we have to go through if we have to go through the paydays 5 times or 6 times before we can actually make an impact to our passive income, which would be better? Going with a 2,700 passive income in one deal, or going through 5 different deals? Because every moment you spend in the rat race, you have the possibility of getting another baby. You have the possibility of going into downsides. You have the possibility of taking up expenses. You have the possibility of getting the big boat. You have the possibility of buying a big TV. So with all these possibilities, where would you want to be? Would you want to pick up your passive income faster, or would you want to play it safer? Okay, now this is a very controversial statement, because we are not here to learn to play it. We are not here to take risks. We are not going to take a risk over here. But that's how it appears to the regular player or to a regular person in our market. Right? How many, I don't know. In my place, in my family, in the environment that I grew up, we don't take loans. We are afraid of leverage. or we are afraid of loans because it creates responsibility, right? It creates responsibility. It looks like, I think Shivam would understand because he is from the same country as me. Right. So it creates responsibility. And the what most people are afraid of is responsibility. If you look at it, the reason why people go into a job is because they want to avoid the responsibility of generating their income. And it takes them to their to a feeling where it says, okay, I've got a job, I've got a great job with a great pay and great benefits. What are benefits? Freebies. We look at freebies and we look at benefits that we can that we hold somebody else responsible for, and not take responsibility for our own income. Okay, that's a completely different philosophy, but this is something that most people, the 90% of the people, the population that we face, the 90% of the people around us follow this. I don't know if personally how many of you have a different philosophy, but this is something that you need to think about. All right, so right now what we have established is it is better to do a deal which gives you more passive income than to run through many deals which give you the same passive income but over a longer period of time, right? So every moment you spend in the rat race, you are facing more uncertainty. All right, so that's shall we move on? Shiva, right. Let's see what his profile is. It's a secretary. Okay, excellent profile. Because it has even lower income. Okay, there you go. A rumor of layoffs. Now these are, okay, Shivam, don't click, don't click. A rumor of layoff, go back to school for added skills. Now this is exactly what Kiyosaki talks about his poor dad, which is his real biological dad. He said every time there was a risk to his job, he went back and got another degree. So he was he was extremely educated with multiple degrees, certifications, and all of that. But it was all motivated by fear. Every time he got additional education, every time he learned something, it was because of fear of being left behind. Okay. All right, let's move on. Shiva. All right, my turn. Screen. All right. Roll. See the opportunity. I'll go with a big deal. All right, excellent. Now, okay, now let's talk about market research. If you look at this one, automated business for sale, successful coin-operated auto wash near busy intersection. I think Ben and me, we went through this in one of the previous sessions, but since most of us here haven't been through it, let's go through it now. Right, automated business for sale, success. Again, notice the wordings. Automated business. If you've we already discussed, automated means there's some kind of system in place, which means we don't have to worry about how it would work. I mean, which means we don't have to involve ourselves too much in the business, where it can take care of itself. for a while. Right. So there's automated business for sale. Successful 4-bay coin operated auto wash near busy intersection. Now this is packed. This is packed with what was it? Keywords. Now it says, number one, it says successful, which means it is making money, it is doing good business. 4-bay coin operated auto wash. Okay. Now auto wash is the sector or the industry that they are into. Right. In that, did somebody just leave? Okay, everybody's still here, right? Okay, Shivam just switched off his video. Okay, right. So it's an auto wash, which means it needs to be where it is accessible by vehicles, because you are washing cars. You're washing cars. You need to be somewhere near the street. So it says near busy intersection. So that means it's a commercial enterprise. It's a commercial establishment. It's a commercial business, and it has a great location. Right? It says commercial and great location. Now this is precisely when we look at real estate, when we analyze real estate in real life. Residential property looks at the what we call neighborhood. It has to be a great neighborhood. It has to be a residential complex. It has to have a park near it. It has to have a school near it. It has to have a hospital near it. That makes a residential property great. Whereas if you look at a commercial property, the first thing that you have to look at and the last thing that you have to look at is the location. If you there's a novel by Sidney Sheldon. I forgot which one that was, but it is. This is something that we all need to read. Okay, this is one of those best novels about real estate, because it talks about how a little girl grew from being a helper in an inn or something like that into a real estate conglomerate. I think it was not Best Laid Plans. It is. I think it is The Other Side of Midnight. But I will post it on the club chat box. I will post that novel on the club chat box. I promise, because that is one of those very good novels which gives you a great insight about the real estate market. All right. And so when it comes to commercial property, the most important thing is location. Is it accessible for the audience? Is it accessible for customers? Can the customers see? Is there visibility? Is there accessibility? Is there other businesses which promote or support or supplement? You know, if you look at a mall, if you look at a shopping mall, you'd see that there is at least one big store in the shopping mall and several small stores. Right? One big store and several small stores. Now, why this one big store and several small stores? Why not 3 or 4 big stores? The smaller stores, this is from the real market, this is from real life. So the smaller stores pay a higher rent than the big store, and the big store is called the anchor store. It's called the anchor store. If you okay, in the international markets, it could be Carrefour, or it could be I don't know what are the other brands, probably Malaysia, okay, it can't be a 7-Eleven, okay? As you'd see a lot of 7-Elevens in Malaysia. But it can't be a 7-Eleven because 7-Elevens are generally small stores. And it could be any supermarket, hypermarket of your choice. I mean, in your country, whichever is the one. So one of those stores are called the anchor stores, which means they attract the largest number of customers. And because they attract that large number of customers, the small stores also get visibility. The small stores can promote themselves to the customers of the big store. And that is the reason why they depend. The large store is called the anchor store, and the small stores are called, the small stores pay a premium to be close to the large store. So that's how a shopping mall works. There are a lot of other things about shopping mall which we can discuss later on, sometime probably in one of the other meetings. But this is how it works. And so location is very, very important for any commercial establishment. Now this one says it is near a busy intersection, which means it's got a great visibility from all different directions, and it has a great location. A seller is moving to retirement community out of state, which means the seller is wanting to dispose. You cannot term this as a distress sale. Now, a distress sale is when the seller wants to dispose at any cost, however possible he wants to dispose it. This happens in when there is an economy, when the economy is going down, or when a particular sector is facing some issues and all that. Let's not talk about that. Not right now, at least. We will get another opportunity for that. This one, it says the seller is moving to retirement, which means he is fairly interested in finishing the deal and moving out, which would explain why he has asked for only 25,000 down payment for something which has a cash flow of 1,800. That's a very good cash flow if you look at it, because for every 25,000, if you are getting 1,800 in cash flow, imagine if you had 4 of these. So within $100,000, you would have a passive income or a cash flow of 18 times 4, that's 36, 72, $7,200. This is great. So that means you get 7.2% returns on your down payment. This is why I said you need to have a calculator with you. But this is one of the simpler calculations where you can just multiply by 4. But some of the other calculations don't allow you to do that. Excuse me. Right. So that 7.2% returns on your down payment, which is a great deal. And plus, now this is all about the deal. Now, market research. Let's go to market research. If you, in the game, market research simply means how familiar you are with the market cards, how familiar you are with the deals. But in real life, if you look at market research, you go back and you look at, we discussed this once before, Ezra. Remember that? Yeah. So we discussed. Yes. So we spoke about how market research needs to cover a span of time. So how we can do market research about real estate, how the pricing trends have been over a period of time, preferably over about 20 years, if it is possible. If it is not possible, then it's a different thing. But if it is not possible, then we go back as much as possible we can, because the history, this is the importance of history. The history actually indicates the cycle. It doesn't give you the direction in which it is headed, or rather it doesn't give you the direction in which the property or the deal is headed in the just explicitly, but it gives you a good idea of how the trends will change. What are the cycles that are going on? Because economy always follows cycles. Now, the gap or the period, the span between the cycles could change, but the cycle itself is a definite thing. Right? If the economy starts growing and it keeps growing, after a particular peak, it will definitely start coming down in one way or the other. This we have seen several times. If you look at history, and history is very good at demonstrating such things, because you can go back to even up to 1940, and you can look at how the Industrial Revolution changed things, how the Industrial Revolution created capitalism, capitalism created socialism, socialism created communism. So all these are part of that cycle. So if you study your history, if you go back to your history books, you can see the events that have been created because of one particular point in history where the economy decides to grow. Once it decides to grow, it grows and grows and grows until it cannot accommodate any more growth, and then it suddenly starts going down. And this is again what happened in 2007. That is the nearest example that we can have. In 2007, how the property market crashed, and a lot of people lost their life savings. A lot of people, how the value of property, how the value of your investment was wiped out, and then the market started correction, and how the inflation affected the economy at that time, how quantitative easing, like how these are all terms which I'm mentioning so that you can go back and do your market research. I'm just helping you with your market research for your real life. So you can go back to what it means by a depression. You could go back to what it means by an economic downturn, what happened in 2007, how the market crashed, what markets crashed in 2007, how the real estate prices and things like that were affected, how the economy was affected, how people lost jobs, how the governments started printing money, which is called quantitative easing. And again, this is very clearly described in most of the earlier books of Robert Kiyosaki, which is like the Cash Flow Quadrant and the How to Grow Your Financial IQ. And these books always mention these kind of things, how the government is printing money in the name of quantitative easing or in the name of treasury bonds, and creating inflation just to postpone the issue of growing growing debt or GDP, growing falls in the GDP. Anyway, okay, that's a little too much for this kind of a discussion, but this is for your market research, where you can actually go back and find out what is actually happening in the financial markets using these terms. Look at your history and figure out how the economic cycles work, how economic cycles follow. Earlier, they used to follow 20-year patterns. Then it became smaller and smaller. It became 15-year patterns. We had an economic depression in the 1990s. And then we had the next one in 2007. So which means the gap over there is about 15 years. and or say 10 years. Let's put an average 10 years over there, which means the gap is closing in, that it is coming closer and closer. Now, after 2007, we had a second wave of depression in 2016, which means 2007 to 2016 is 9 years. So 10 years, 9 years, it's all quite similar. Again, it comes to 2020 now, 2016 to 2020 is only 4 years or 5 years. We are facing a pandemic, but okay, this is an interesting question. How many of us think that it is because of the pandemic that the economy is doing bad? Is it the pandemic? Is the pandemic the reason? Is Corona or COVID-19 the reason why the economy is doing bad?
Oh,
Two chats. Okay, all right. Let's see who's chatting. Okay, Ben says it's not the pandemic. Who agrees with Ben?
me.
All right. Ezra says it's not the pandemic.
I guess pandemic has a play to downfall of economic. Yeah, I disagree.
Okay. So Shivam says it could be the pandemic. Pandemic has a role to play. All right. Daniel, Desmond, Steve.
Yeah, I think pandemic.
Unemployment's gone up in general. A lot of small businesses have closed down, so it has had an impact, but it's not the cause.
Okay, I didn't get you entirely over there. So you are saying it is not the reason.
No, it's not. It's not the cause.
Okay, all right,
It's aggravated it, if you like.
right,
It does
right.
have a role to play, but it's not the root cause.
Okay, all right, okay, okay. We've been given the warning for 10 minutes now. No problem. We will restart this again. Daniel, Desmond, your mic is unmuted already. What do you think?
I think this is it might be one of the causes because the local shops are closing worldwide,
Mhm.
so people don't buy stuff,
Hmm.
which leads to bad economy, I believe.
All right.
Not sure.
Okay. All right. So you think it is one of the reasons why the economy is going bad? Right. Desmond, what do you think?
I think the COVID is also one of the reasons, but it's also the government who set the rules, not suppressing the economic activity and cause the economy to slow down.
All right. So you were saying it is the government which is not doing enough to handle the economic situation.
Yes, in order to save more people, they have to do that.
All right.
So
But what about the pandemic? What does the pandemic have to do with this one? Do you think because of COVID-19, the economy is down and then the government is not doing enough?
yes, I think that the COVID-19 does affect the economy.
All right. Okay. Okay. So let's look at it this way. If you had a strong economy, and you had a real value, realistic value. Now, real value and realistic value are two different things, because real value is what you would look at in terms of the fundamental business opportunities, or what you would look at as the strength of any market. Okay, so whether it is for, like, say for example, an automated business. An automated business is a strong business because it has a system in place, right? So if there is a proper system, or if there is a, okay, Ben says not the pandemic, I note that. Right, let's see. So we are looking at that. So if you have a strong system, or let's look at it in terms of our body. If you have a strong body, if you work out, you eat good food, you are you exercise, you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't do all those kind of things which can probably damage your body. So you live a healthy lifestyle. Is it more liable for you to fall sick if you have a healthy lifestyle, or if you have a bad or unorganized, unhealthy lifestyle? If you have a healthy lifestyle, you are safer, correct? If you have a healthy lifestyle, you are stronger. The same case happens with the economy as well. I'm just using it as a rough example, so I could simplify things. But the same happens with an economy. If the economy is strong, if the economy is based on real value, which is real value addition, people are working within the system, and the system cannot crash in case of small disruptions or small issues like this. Now, this is one of those things. Now, if you have a weak system, now why a weak system? Because a weak system means you are not creating real value, but your value is created because of inflation. Your value is created because of quantitative easing. Your value is created because of economic stimulus. Your value is created because the government is printing money. Your value is created only because there are other sectors which are failing, and there are distressed sales happening. So if that is the case, then you have a very big problem. Which is why, if you notice some of Robert Kiyosaki's books, it says, I make money when the property prices increase and when the property prices fall. These are his words. Okay, this is how he works. If you look at stockbrokers, for example, stockbrokers, whether your stock is going up or your stock is going down, they still make brokerage. That's what they make, and that's what they are there for. And that means their business is stronger than any investor's business in the stock market. If you are an investor in the stock market, your business is not as strong as the broker who is doing the deal for you, or the middleman, or whoever. I mean, because these days you don't have real brokers, you only have systems. You have systems. Now see how strong the word system comes in. The system is so strong that regardless of whether you make money as an investor or not, the system makes money for the broker. Wonderful to have a system, isn't it? Right? So this is one of the reasons why the economy, or some economies, now we have been discussing several economies in the news these days, especially the ones affected by the pandemic. So some of them have been really affected bad. Some of them were bad even before the pandemic. Now in the pandemic, they became worse. But some of them, like say the Australian economy. I admire the Australian market. They still haven't opened borders. They still haven't started allowing people to fly across. Whereas several other economies have been forced to open their borders in spite of the pandemic. That's because the Australian economy is one of the stronger economies, and they don't need to open their, they don't need to compromise during the pandemic. So is New Zealand. I think New Zealand is also one of the more resilient economies during this pandemic times. So if your economy is strong, then your pandemic or any such situation only makes a temporary disruption to your activities. And as long as you make those, you fix it, you can move ahead. So the pandemic is something that has exposed the system or the weakness of the system. The pandemic itself is not causing the weakness in the system. The pandemic has exposed the weakness in the system. Okay, we have less than 1 minute, so we will repeat. We will rejoin the meeting after the once the meeting expires. So this is something that we need to understand when we create a system, that our system can be any situation, any situation, external situation cannot
Hello, Lijo. I think I got kicked out of the game.
Is it?
Yes.
Do you want the, okay, I'll post the link. I'm not sure if you can join again. There you go.
I think let's make a game that has no password, so we can re-enter whenever we get kicked out.
Yes, we can do that, but then the point is, if we do that and somebody else joins from some outside the game, because it's a six-member game. Okay, let me post it here. It's in the chat. Can you try and join? Did it work?
No.
Okay, that's all right. All right. So did it work for you, Ezra? You could join?
No.
No? No. Okay. All right. Leave it. It's okay. All right. So the point is, we were discussing the strength of a system. So external factors can expose the weakness of your system. It doesn't actually create the weakness. The weakness is in the system, and external factors like a pandemic, they just expose, they just make you see it. All right, now this is a great deal. I'm going to buy this, and yes, that puts me in a loan. We'll talk about loans and how to calculate loans and why these loans and all of those kind of things in another session, in our next meeting, because this is our last one. I want to cover a few more deals before we can before we end the whole thing. Right, so I stop my sharing. Steve, go ahead.
That's why you buy that is because you can sell that for 250,000, right?
Yes, okay, market research.
Which has a appreciation value.
Good point. Ezra. I actually missed out. Why we actually started talking about that, but then we missed out on that. Steve, before you roll, give me a second. So
Okay.
that deal, the cost was 125,000. Now, market research which means market research in the game shows me that I may get an opportunity to sell this for $250,000 if I get a chance, if I get an opportunity. So which means if I did my market research well, I know that this is a great deal because I'm getting it at a lower cost, like 125,000, which I can sell for 250,000, which means I can make 100% capital gains on that. I'm getting a great cash flow. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me show you my financial statement before we move on to Steve. All right. So there goes. Passive income of 1,800. One single deal again. So that is like how many deals? Four deals from the four best deals from the small deals. Correct? 500 each. So instead of four deals from the small deals, I've done one single deal and I've got a 1,800 cash passive income out of the deal. The expense, if you can see where my cursor is, if you can see where the cost is 125,000, which means I can make 100% capital gains on that. So that is a good thing. And my down payment is only 25,000, right? So that's 20%, which is a fair, which is like kind of the upper limit in the game at least. So it's 20% down payment on that one. Right? My payday has gone down a little bit. Never mind, it's still in positive, so I don't worry about it too much. Steve, go.
Okay.
All right, go with a big deal and we'll see what, okay, let's look at the deal now. All right, it's a due play for sale. Now, due play is a kind of property. So if it's two units merged together with one single wall between them. Okay, so it's a due play. And the cost is 45,000. Steve, could you zoom your thing a little bit, your screen a little bit?
Sorry?
Can you zoom? Could you enlarge it? Okay, excellent. Once more. Good, great. Look at the deal. Your cash flow is 320. Now, due play means 2 units, right? A due play means 2 units. 2 units for 45,000, which means each unit is costing you 22,500. 22,500. Here again, you put your market research into place. You say your best deal for a Plex unit could be up to 40,000 in the game, which means in the peak of the market, you can get a deal for 40,000 per unit for a Plex. Now this, when you look at it, your cost here is only 22.5, which means you have an opportunity of making 22 and a half, 40 minus 22, that's 15, 17 and a half thousand, right? So 17 and a half thousand on one unit, which means you get 35,000. If you are able to sell this one, you get 35,000 as your capital gains. Your capital gains alone is 35,000. Plus you have a cash flow, which is a bonus. Now, let's go into the financial principle here. If you have, I don't know whether it is mentioned in Rich Dad Poor Dad, but if you have read Cash Flow Quadrant, you can see this clearly, because Rich Dad keeps telling Robert, young Robert, that you have to always buy in profit. The principle is to buy in profit, not to sell in profit. Now we commonly think we have to sell in profit. It is not about selling in profit. It is about buying in profit. Okay. Now, how do you buy in profit? What is the idea behind buying in profit?
Buy low, sell high.
Buy low, sell high. Yes. Okay. That's common. Okay. But why do you call it profit?
By actual value, or like below actual value, whatever we think about it.
Okay. Below actual value. All right. Well, you're almost there, Shiva, but not entirely accurate. Okay. Right. Let me go on that. So if you look at 40,000 per unit, okay, if you look at it as 40,000 per unit, which is the possible market card, if you look at it at 40,000 per unit, do you think it represents the actual cost of the unit? Does it represent, my question is, does it represent the actual cost of the unit? When somebody is buying from you at 40,000 per unit, something that you have bought for 22,500 or 20,000 or for 35,000, whatever it may be, they are buying at 40,000. Do you think it represents the cost of the unit?
No.
Basically, if market is doing good, like if I will see that if other places are doing good, of course its value it should be higher than that. So my rule of thumb, like if I have to think about it, is like what we can see, like let's say as we talked about the neighbors valuation, neighbor market is offering this one good, and because of some factor, let's say some depression or some fear of people, they are selling it in the less amount. In that case, it's a profitable.
Okay, let me introduce two concepts here. Okay, one is cost, the other is value. Now, what is the difference between the two?
The potential.
Come again, Ben. Is that Ben?
Steve
No,
was
it
here.
was me. I
Yes.
said it was the potential.
Okay, which represents the potential?
The value of it versus the cost.
Yes. Okay. Now, value represents a perception. The buyer, if I buy something and I want to, and I think of it as valuable, If I buy something, if I have to buy a Plex at 40,000 per unit, it is because I have a perception, I have a concept, I have an understanding that this is worth, it is worth 40,000. The actual cost is something different. If you have to construct a unit, how much are you going to spend? What is your total expense on creating something, as opposed to what is your cost or what is your transaction value when you are trading something. A valuation comes when you have a trade in mind. A cost comes when you have a creation in mind. You are creating something, and that is your cost. You are transacting something, then comes your valuation. In your valuation, now, in your valuation, you say, okay, this could be worth 40,000. Now, if you are buying something at 22,500, which is this deal, okay, you are buying something at 22,500, where the actual valuation could be 40,000. Are you making a profit?
Yes.
Yes. See, that is where buy in profit, the concept of buy in profit comes up. In a market where the valuation is higher and your transaction value, the cost that you pay for it is lower, you get an opportunity to buy in profit. Now, if you buy in profit, then your sale automatically becomes profitable. But if you did not buy in profit, which means you purchased the property close to the valuation of the property, your cost is not the motivation for buying this property. Rather, it is if it is your valuation that you are placing while buying the property, then you cannot buy in profit. You have to look at your cost and you have to look at your valuation, and you say, my cost is lower than the valuation of the property. That means I can make my purchase in profit. I can buy in profit. That's when you say, I got a good deal. Don't we all use this word? We all say this, right? Wow, I got a good deal.
Yeah.
Why do you say you got a good deal? Because when you say you got a good deal, what you actually mean is that the valuation of the goods, whatever I purchased, the valuation is higher, but the cost I paid is lower. So I got a good deal. I got a discounted price. I got a good deal. It is worth more, but it cost me less, right? Something that is worth more, but it costs me less. That is when you do a deal in profit. That's when you say, I got a good deal. Now this one, if you look at it, according to the market research, it is a good deal because you are buying in profit, not maybe entirely in profit, because The lowest cost of a Plex unit in the game is 20,000, not 22,500. So you are paying 2,500 extra. But still, if you look at it, 17,000 is not so 17,500 per unit, which means 35,000 on this one single deal. Profit is not so bad. It has capital gains. So you can go ahead and purchase this deal. Okay, now if you want to go into the economy of this, now 8,000 and he has got 2,000 in cash. Steve has got 2,000 in cash. He has to put a down payment of 8,000. So that's another 6,000 which goes into the loan. 6,000 into the loan is minus 600 on his payday. His cash flow is 320, which means his payday is affected by minus 240. Correct? 280.
Minus 280.
280. Yes. 280. All right. Go ahead, Steve. Make the deal. Loan of 600. Buy. And there goes. Can we see your financial statement now?
Sure.
Excellent. Can you scroll down the screen? Yeah, okay, that's fine. All right. So you can see where each one goes into. This is one of those things which I want to do for the club. I want to be able to play on the CD version of this. The CD version actually allows you, or if it forces you to place these costs into the financial statement. Now here, the costs automatically go into the values automatically go into the financial statement. But in the CD version, each one you have to drag and drop into the appropriate column in the financial statement, which means you actually get to do a lot of you get a lot of understanding about which value goes where. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Daniel is the next turn. Next turn goes to Daniel. Yes. Can you end your screen sharing, Steve? Thank you. Daniel, could you start screen share?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Go ahead. Roll.
Let's do it.
All right. Charity. Now, what is your take on charity? Kiyosaki always says he does charity, regardless of what he is earning. He does charity. He always keeps aside a 10% of his total income. Okay, this is my personal opinion. I don't know much about. I haven't figured out any deeper meaning in this one. But in my opinion, I do charity only if my payday is positive. If my payday is positive, I put some. I pay for charity. If it is not, I don't. But yes, in real life, if you do charity, you do stand to gain a little. In my experience, if you are a charitable person, you get connected to a lot of people. A lot of people try to talk to you. A lot of people communicate with you, and communication is always good. It helps you establish a broader, wider audience or market or marketplace, whatever. So wherever, even in real life, wherever possible, I always do charity. But again, even in real life, I do charity. Okay, sometimes in real life, I do charity even if I don't have a positive cash flow, I mean, a positive payday. But the thing is, it is a good practice. Go ahead, Daniel. Pass. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, Ezra is out of the game. That is confirmed. Okay, Desmond, can you start your screen share? Desmond, you there? All right.
Yes, please read.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Market card.
Yeah.
Now, market card is very important for market research. Okay. So every time you get a market card, you need to study the offer very carefully and remember the offer, so that the next time you buy a property, the next time you make a deal, you know if you are buying in profit or not. If you have an offer for 100,000, now this is not a bad offer for a 3x2 rental house. So that means if you purchase a house or a 3x2 house for 65,000, now in the big deals, that's the lowest you can get a 3x2 house. So if you purchase a house for 65,000 and you put a down payment of say 6,000, 8,000 or something like that, and you get an offer like this, then you know at least 100,000 is the selling price of this house, which means you stand to make 35,000 in capital gains, plus you get back your 6,000 or 8,000, whatever you have given as down payment. So that makes it a total of 40 or 42,000 in cash into your financial statement. All right, since you don't have any. Okay, now Desmond is special among all the players here right now because he already has a negative payday. Now Desmond has to always look carefully. He has to keep his observation. He has to keep his attention on his financial statement all the time. Now, when I started playing in this strategy, I never used to close my financial statement. I roll with my, I don't see where the others are rolling. I only look at my financial statement because I want it to be in front of my eyes all the time. All right. Okay. Desmond, can you, okay. Right now you are looking at, Desmond has cash 640, which is good enough to cover his next payday, which is minus 80. So if he crosses over to a payday, through a payday, that means he will pay from his 640, he will pay $80, and his cash will come down to 560, and his payday will stay at minus 80. All right. Okay, let's move, Desmond. And the next one is Shiva. All right. Shivam, screen share? Okay, you did. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's look at the financial statement. Zero passive income. No liability, no extra liabilities. Positive payday. Cash of 490, which is not great, but it's not so bad either. Okay. Let's go for a big deal. See what happens. Okay, owner moving out of this duplex due to growing family. Okay, which means one of the, okay, look at that. Tenant remains well maintained, excellent landscape. Duplex is a 2-unit residential property. Out of those 2 units, the owner is living in one of those, and there is a tenant in the other unit. Now, the owner is moving out of the duplex because he doesn't have enough space. His family is growing. He probably had another baby. He is running in the rat race. Very good. So he moves out and the tenant remains. So the cash flow from one unit, this is something that we've never noticed before. but the cash flow from one unit is $240, which actually is a good thing, because traditionally, I mean, in the other deals, if you look at it, you see cash flow per unit for a duplex is maybe the best is 200 per unit. Normally, it's about 100, 150 or 160. This one unit is giving us 240. It doesn't matter anyway, because you have to go ahead and sell the other rental units to somebody else if you want to double it. So right now we look at the cost, 50,000. So the unit cost of this duplex is 25,000. Right. So 25,000 compared to our market research of 40,000. This has to constantly remain in your mind. This figure of 40,000 for a flex unit. 25,000 compared to 40,000. Still, we are buying in some profit. It's not all profit, because the flex unit cost can go down to 20,000. But still, it's an additional 5,000. Don't worry, you still need to make some capital gains. Your down payment is less than 20%, right? Ben, do help me out here. Do the calculations. Okay.
And are you taking time?
3%.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you get it?
No. How much is it?
3%.
How much is it?
It says 3%.
Okay, that's the ROI on that. I'm asking about the down payment. How much? What percentage?
How much?
How much percentage of the down payment are we talking about here? Okay. Okay, how much is the down payment here? 20%, 17%? Okay, that's 8,000 by 50,000. 8,000 divided
Around
by
15, 17.
Sorry, 50,000 divided by 8,000
Hmm.
into, no, 8,000 divided by 50,000 into
8.5.
100.
Yeah.
All right. How much is it?
16.
16?
17, 16, 17. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's less than 20%. Okay. Last deal that we did was for 20%. This is less than 20%, which is not so bad. I mean, which is even better than the previous deal, except that the cost has gone up a little bit. Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Buy. Okay. All right. Financial statement. Yes, Shivam, show us your financial statement so we can. Okay. All right. You already. Okay. Show your financial statement and then we'll go to my turn. Right. So his payday is went down to $80 when he took the loan, and then we added 240 to it and made it 320. So it's still in positive payday. Passive income of 240, which is quite. I mean, of course, this is not much, but it's still something to go on with. All right, let's go to my screen, and I think we are coming to a to the end of today's meeting. Okay, right. Okay, share screen, respond, share. Okay. All right. This could be the last deal for today. All right, limited partnership. Okay, good.
We are getting lots of business deals.
Okay, so limited partnership. Again, this if you want to connect this with real life, I suggest you watch shows like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank. Dragon's Den happens in UK. Shark Tank happens in Dragon's Den also happens in the US, I believe. Dragon's Den UK, Dragon's Den US.
You have Dragon's Den Ireland also.
Ireland also, yes, yes. I remembered when you mentioned. Then you have Shark Tank in Australia. All of these shows, they give you a good idea of what it is like to get into a limited partnership. You get into a limited partnership with all these conditions. You say, okay, if we are going to sell out, then you are also going to sell out. And this is the capital that you have to pump in, because it's mostly for raising capital. This is the capital that you have to pump in. This is the equity that we will give you in return for this capital that you pump in. And so those kind of deals, it's very, very rewarding to watch these shows, the Dragon's Den, Shark Tank, and all of those, because they help you think like an investor. They help you think like somebody who is a shareholder in a company, and they help you understand what an investor is actually looking at, what an investor really wants to buy into. What are they looking at? They look at you, whether you have the ability, the capability to run this business. They look at whether your business is actually valuable enough to invest into. They look at what is the environment that you are pitching into. Is there a viability of the business? They look at a lot of things in that, and it is actually we did something. We did talk about this in one of the previous videos, and we will talk about it in some of the other in the next sessions, because we only have about 4.5 minutes, and I want to finish analyzing this deal. So in relation to related to the game, so if it happens early on in the game, I always buy these limited partnerships, regardless of whether it puts me into negative payday or not. And one of the things about limited partnership is whatever is the cost, that is your down payment as well, which means you put in your 100% cash. Your 100% cash. This happens in real life also when you buy an equity share of an equity from a limited liability company. You have to pump in your entire amount, your entire sum. You have to make a commitment to it from the beginning. That's mostly the case. Of course, in real life, things are not always like that. Sometimes you can stagger your payments and all of that, but that's a case-to-case basis. Let's not discuss that right now over here today. But my game advice is, whenever it happens in the game, if it is early on in the game, or if you already have a lot of one or two limited partnerships already in the game, I would go ahead and buy, because they have the potential of selling at 2 times or 3 times and generating some cash. Okay, so we have already had 3 Zoom sessions, which is the limit for this meeting. And I think okay, this time we actually moved a little faster, because we had we have the experience from the previous meetings. If you have any comments, if you have any demands, you can raise them right now. And once the Zoom meeting has ended, if you want to stay back and finish the game, we can play and finish the game. Except there won't be too many explanations on the deals. But if you want to stay back, I will stay back as well and finish the game. But if not, then it's up to you. I will still stay back and finish the game. Yeah. Okay. Feedback time.
Actually, nothing. You give all the key points that you need, anyways.
All right. How about those who have joined us for the first time today? Steve, Daniel, Desmond.
Hi. Actually, I've watched the previous videos, and so I thought they were great.
All right.
I've been listening to them.
Okay.
So in this particular, it's been a pleasure to be here and play with you guys and learn from you, Lijoy. So
Thank you.
it's pretty much that. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, and it's pretty much that.
No worries. What I would wanted to know is, am I clear? Am I okay with my explanations, or do I have to do something differently? What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, no, this has been interesting for me and helped me look at things from a different viewpoint, which I think is valuable. Explanations excellent, and yeah, like I said, it helps to have another viewpoint. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Desmond, what do you feel?
I think this is great, and maybe we can move faster next time.
Okay. All right. Fine. I'm only worried about